Hi, my name is Jasmine Bouchard and I'll be answering a few questions for the peer review that my colleagues Daphne, Brandon, and Marianne have asked me. So for the first question, in your C12 analysis you mentioned that you would have to be careful with older students since you tend to be sweet. Now, since you taught teenagers during your second practicum, is this something you found was difficult or challenging? If so, why? And say how you improved during your second practicum. Overall, I would like to know if you were able to reach the goal you had set yourself. So it's true that during my first practicum, I thought I'd be too sweet to teach older students. But in my second practicum, I taught Sec 3 and Sec 5 enriched international program at Dufour, and it turned out that this was not a problem at all. I think it's because I stood tall and I was firm when I was answering a student. I was not afraid to tell them that no, this is not right, no, I will not accept this. And I think I took out my teacher personality. So I wasn't afraid to be myself. I wasn't afraid to tell the students what I thought. When I was teaching or something happened, I would stand tall and I would speak and I was confident in what I was saying, and I believed what I was saying. I had one student in particular that was difficult sometimes because he procrastinated a lot and he always argumented about his procrastination. He would try to find all the excuses he could and he would take all the opportunities he could to talk back, but I wasn't afraid. I stood my ground and I told him that no, and I never let it show that I didn't have confidence in myself. I never backed down unless I was in the wrong. So when I was doing something, when I was teaching, I kept my sweet side, as said in this question, because I'm teaching really for the students. I'm teaching for them. So I always try to listen to their opinion, try to find out why, what they think, and what's their side of the story. But I believed what I said, and when I said something, I didn't go back. For my second question, in your Competency 2 analysis, you say that your tone of voice influences the students a lot. Can you give an example of how your tone of voice influences your students? It's true that I do this. I didn't realize I did it before my second practicum, but I use my voice as a tool for class management. I had two groups. My Sec 3 group was very energetic. They were happy-go-lucky, but sometimes it was difficult to try to control this energy. My Sec 5 group was quite the opposite. They were calm, sometimes platonic. For them, it was hard to try to get them excited, to try to get them to interact and participate. So when I was with my Sec 3 group, I spoke in a soft tone, like I'm doing now, to try and calm them, to try and get them to let go of their energy and to listen in class. I found it quite useful to do so because it's true that it does calm the student when I speak to them in a soft tone. If I spoke to them in an excited, energetic tone, it would have made the situation worse. For my Sec 5 group, I spoke in a more energetic tone. I played a lot with my voice. I spoke sometimes louder, but sometimes I take pauses, like I'm doing right now. But I spoke in a way as to show them that something was happening, something was going on, and to get them to participate more. I really like using my voice in such a way because I find that it's a class management technique that doesn't disrupt the class. It doesn't disrupt the class or the students when they're working. Not like if I'd be directly calling a student. And using my voice doesn't put any particular student on the spot either. So as to not hurt their feelings or as to not get the other students to really look at them. So I find it has been really useful doing it that way. It helped me a lot. For my last question, in your competency 3 analysis, you talk about how you had to change your plans for the day because only 9 students were in the class and you had planned an exam. Do you think having the students do the same exam on a different day impacted their grades? How would you make sure that the ones that were or weren't there would not be disadvantaged? So I don't know if I would have done that in any other situation, but the context I was in at that moment was quite particular. It was on a Friday. I was with my Sec 3 group and I had planned to give an exam, a C2 reading comprehension. We were studying Edgar Allan Poe and it was a comprehension exam on the short story William Wilson. And I thought that about 9 students would be missing, but turns out 9 students were present in my class. So off the top of my head, I thought, I can't give my exam. But what happened was that this exam that we administered, my colleague and I, in our classes, was an exam that our associate teacher gave in previous years. And it's a quite difficult exam. It's focused more on analysis and symbolism throughout the story. So the goal of this exam was to get the students to analyze a more underlying level of what is going on and what is the author's purpose doing certain things throughout the story. For example, there is a question at the end that asks students, is there or is there not a mirror at the end of the story? So they would have to argue, for example, yes, I believe that there is a mirror because and then they'd have to go to support their argumentation with an excerpt of the text and go really deep into their arguments. Like, for example, if they were to have said because he saw a mirror at the beginning, that was not what was expected of them. And this is pretty difficult because, for example, I did this type of exercise when I was in Sec 5 and they're doing it in Sec 3 enriched. So my associate teacher suggested that the class before, we put students in groups and we get them to discuss the questions. So we handed them the exam, they looked at all the questions and they talked them out. So there are no yes/no questions. They're all really open-ended questions that get the students thinking. So we wanted them to challenge each other, to really look at each other's opinions and to find different arguments and different reasons. And for example, we didn't want, because a student could start thinking that with the mirror question I said before, that no, there's no mirror, but then change his mind to, oh yes, now I think there is a mirror because so-and-so said something really interesting and it got me thinking. So we really wanted them to try and find the best answer possible, to really challenge each other, as I said before. Of course, we didn't participate. We roamed around, made sure the discussion was going. Sometimes when we had a group that all had the same opinion, that would agree, we would try to get them to argument more. We would question them and try to get them going so that they can make the best of the situation, of course. And in this particular situation, the students had already seen the exam. They had already seen the questions. It was the exact same exam that they did the class after. So what we did was I gave the students a choice. They could either do the exam this class and do personal work the next class, or do the opposite. So we were not afraid that they would be disadvantaged or that they would cheat or that they would not have as better grades because they had seen the exam. So they all were on the same level for that, and they were all allowed their books. They all had the same information. There was a small recap the class before, so all the students were on an equal level, as I could say, for that. Maybe the only thing is the students that did the exam in the next class, the information was maybe less fresh in their minds. But during the exam, they were asked to use their book and answer the questions depending on what was said in their discussion the class before. And it's a really an individual thing. So, no, I don't think they were disadvantaged in any way, but that's a really particular situation. It's very rare that something like this would happen, that a group would get to see an exam beforehand and it would not impact the result of the exam at all. But if the situation was different, if it was any other kind of an exam, I probably would have asked the students to watch an excerpt of a TV show or a TED Talk, following with a discussion or writing exercise. So I had many plan Bs that I could use, and I would have done something different in any other circumstance or context. So those are my answers to the questions. So thank you very much for listening. And that is all.